What if the most expensive purchases in your life were the ones that felt the easiest to say yes to? No interest, no credit card, no loan application, just 4 small payments, quietly spaced out, and barely noticeable. What if the real cost of buy now, pay later is not hidden in fees, but in how it rewires the way purchasing decisions are made? This is not a warning. It is an autopsy. Chapter 1. The moment of relief. Buy now, pay later usually enters the picture during pressure. A phone stops working. A household item fails. An expense appears before the paycheck does. The option does not promise luxury. It promises relief. Instead of one painful payment, the cost is divided into smaller parts. The full price disappears from focus. The installment becomes the decision. Consumer payment research consistently shows that when immediate payment pain is reduced, purchase approval rates rise. This is not about irresponsibility. It is about how relief changes evaluation. Chapter 2. Why split payments feel cheaper. Behavioral economics describes a mechanism known as payment decoupling. When receiving a product is separated from paying for it, spending increases. This principle has been observed across credit cards, installment plans. Deferred billing systems, BNPL, intensifies this effect. The product is delivered immediately, the cost arrives later, and in smaller, fragmented amounts. A $480 purchase is no longer evaluated as $480. It is evaluated as 4 payments of $120. The brain anchors to the installment. The total cost fades from emotional processing. This effect is consistently documented in consumer behavior studies. Chapter 3. The interest-free misunderstanding. Many BNPL services are correctly advertised as interest-free. This fact is real, but it is incomplete. Interest is only one form of cost. Another cost is behavioral expansion. People buy more often. People buy sooner. People buy larger baskets. Retail payment research has repeatedly shown that when friction is removed, spending volume increases, even without interest. Zero interest does not mean zero impact. It means the cost is no longer visible at the point of decision. Chapter 4. From occasional use to default. Method. The first BNPL purchase often feels exceptional. The second feels justified. The third feels normal. Over time, BNPL shifts from a temporary solution to a default way to pay. This changes expectations. Paying in full begins to feel unnecessary. Waiting feels avoidable. Future income feels accessible. This is how relief becomes routine, not through failure, but through repetition. Chapter 5. A simple time-based illustration. Consider a neutral scenario. A person uses BNPL once every 2 months. Each purchase averages a modest amount. Each plan lasts several weeks. Individually, nothing feels heavy, but over time, new plans begin before old ones end. Payments overlap. Future income becomes partially committed. This is not overspending in a single moment. It is accumulation through spacing. The financial shift occurs quietly, not when the purchase is made, but when the calendar fills. Chapter 6. The Future Income Lock-in Effect. BNPL relies on future income. This is structurally true. When future income is pre-committed, flexibility decreases, emergency capacity shrinks, financial options narrow. This is not unique to BNPL, but BNPL makes the process less visible. The risk is not default, the risk is rigidity. Stress increases not because income falls, but because obligations persist unchanged. Chapter 7. Missed payments and consequence. Conversion. BNPL systems are optimized for ease at entry, but missed payments change the equation. Late fees may apply, accounts may be restricted, collections may follow. Exact terms vary by provider and jurisdiction. Providing universal figures would be insufficient. What is consistent is the pattern. Relief converts into consequence when timing breaks. Chapter 8. Credit Reporting. Uncertainty. BNPL exists in a mixed reporting environment. Some providers report to credit bureaus. Some report only missed payments. Some do not report at all. This inconsistency creates uncertainty. Consumers may assume BNPL is off credit. That assumption is increasingly unreliable. Where uncertainty exists, risk increases by default. Chapter 9. Who feels the pressure most? BNPL users span all income levels. But middle-income earners face a specific vulnerability, enough income to qualify limited margin for overlap. Multiple obligations competing for future cash flow. This creates quiet strain, not collapse, compression. Chapter 10. The Autopsy Summary. Buy now. Pay later does not damage finances suddenly. It works gradually, predictably, structurally. It reduces payment pain. It increases access. It delays consequence. The cost is not hidden in interest. It is hidden in repetition, time, and future commitment. Short-term relief becomes long-term cost not through misuse, but through normalization. This was not about avoiding buy now, pay later. It was about understanding what happens when relief replaces evaluation. If you want more breakdowns like this, not advice, not motivation, not hype, but clear, factual autopsies of everyday financial decisions, subscribe to Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies. One decision, one system, one long-term outcome at a time. Chapter 1. The Moment of Relief. What if the most expensive decisions in your life never felt expensive at the moment you made them? What if the danger was not debt, but relief? When money is tight, the mind does not search for the cheapest option. It searches for the fastest escape from pressure. And that is exactly where buy now, pay later enters the story. Not as temptation, not as luxury, but as relief. Section 1. Pressure arrives. Imagine this moment. Your phone screen goes dark. No warning, no backup. It is not a luxury problem. Your phone is how you work, how you bank, how you communicate. Your paycheck arrives in 2 weeks. Repair costs are uncertain. Replacement is expensive. The problem is not the price, the problem is timing. This is the psychological environment where buy now, pay later appears. Not during comfort, during compression. Research in consumer decision-making consistently shows that when people face time pressure and financial stress simultaneously, the brain shifts from optimization to resolution. The question changes from, is this worth the money? To, how do I make this problem stop? Section 2. The Relief Offer. Buy now, pay later does not offer you more money. It offers you less pain now. Instead of one full payment, the cost is divided. Instead of confronting the total price, you see a fraction. $800 becomes 4 payments of $200. The number that matters changes. Behavioral finance research has repeatedly shown that when immediate payment pain is reduced, purchase approval rates increase. This is not irresponsibility. It is cognitive load management. When stress is high, the brain narrows its focus. The installment becomes the decision. The total disappears into the background. If nothing changed except how the price was presented, did the product really become more affordable? Or did the decision standard change? Section 3. Payment pain in the brain. Psychologists describe something called payment pain. It is the mental discomfort felt when money leaves your control. Cash has high payment pain. Debit has moderate payment pain. Credit and deferred payments reduce it further. Buy now, pay later minimizes it almost entirely. The product arrives immediately. The cost arrives later. The brain separates consumption from consequence. This separation matters. Studies in consumer behavior show that when consumption is disconnected from payment, spending increases, not because people want more, but because the internal alarm is quieter. Relief feels like safety. Section 4. How evaluation changes. Before relief, evaluation sounds like this. Can I afford this right now? What will this cost me today? After relief, evaluation changes. Can I handle the next payment? Will this hurt later? This is a smaller question, not because it is wrong, but because it is incomplete. The full cost does not disappear. It becomes postponed, and postponed costs are psychologically discounted. The future feels lighter than the present. Now imagine this does not happen once. It happens 3 times in 1 year. A phone, a household appliance, a medical expense. Each time, relief works. Each time, the decision feels manageable. Section 5. Relief reinforcement. Loop, this is where reinforcement begins. Relief teaches the brain something. This worked last time, not financially, emotionally. The mind remembers that pressure was removed quickly. Behavioral research shows that solutions that reduce stress fast are reused more often, even if they cost more over time. The brain optimizes for emotional safety under uncertainty. This is not failure. It is adaptation. Section 6. The invisible accumulation. Individually, each buy now, pay. Later decision feels contained, but the system does not operate in isolation. Payments overlap. Future income becomes pre-allocated. Flexibility shrinks quietly. Nothing breaks suddenly. That is why the danger is subtle. Financial strain does not arrive as crisis. It arrives as reduced margin, less room for error, less room for opportunity. Buy now, pay later does not make people reckless. It makes decisions feel smaller than they are. Section 7. What this chapter proves. This chapter is not about avoiding buy now, pay later. It is about understanding what changes at the moment of relief. When pressure is high, the brain prioritizes immediacy. Evaluation narrows. Pain, avoidance, replaces cost analysis. Relief is powerful, and powerful tools must be understood, not judged. This channel exists to perform financial decision autopsies, not to shame choices, not to sell shortcuts, but to slow decisions down before pressure speeds them up. If you want to understand why everyday financial choices feel easy now and expensive later, subscribe to Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies. Because the most costly decisions are rarely made recklessly, they are made in moments of relief. Chapter 2. Why split payments feel cheaper? Why does paying 4 times $25 feel easier than paying $100 once, even though the total is identical? Why does the second option trigger less hesitation, less internal debate, and less emotional resistance? And why does this effect work on first-time buyers, middle-income earners, and financially careful people alike? This is not marketing trickery. It is not lack of discipline. It is how the human brain experiences cost when payment is divided. To understand buy now, pay later, you must understand why splitting a number changes how expensive it feels. Section 1. The illusion of smallness. A single full payment creates a clear moment of evaluation. The buyer sees the total. The trade-off is immediate. The question becomes unavoidable. Is this worth giving up that much money right now? Split payments remove that moment. Instead of one clear price, the buyer sees a fraction. $25 today does not feel like a $100 decision. It feels like a short-term adjustment. Consumer payment studies consistently show that people judge affordability based on immediate out-of-pocket cost, not total obligation. This is known as anchoring. The first number the brain sees becomes the reference point. When the anchor is small, resistance weakens. The full cost does not disappear. It simply never becomes emotionally dominant. Section 2. Payment pain and the brain. Psychologists use the term payment pain to describe the discomfort felt when money leaves your control. This pain varies dramatically based on how and when payment occurs. Cash produces the strongest pain because the loss is visible and immediate. Debit produces less pain because the transaction is abstracted. Credit produces even less because payment is delayed. Split payments reduce pain the most. Why? Because pain is strongest when cost and consumption happen together. Buy now, pay later separates them. The benefit is experienced immediately. The cost is postponed, reduced, or fragmented. The brain processes the purchase as less expensive even when the total cost has not changed. This effect has been repeatedly documented in behavioral finance and consumer psychology research. It is measurable behavior, not opinion. Section 3. Mental accounting. In practice, humans do not treat all money equally. We sort money into mental categories: monthly bills, daily spending, unexpected expenses. Small purchases, split payments exploit this system. A $100 charge activates the major expense category. A $25 installment often does not. Instead, it blends into routine spending. Each installment feels manageable. Each one feels familiar. Each one avoids triggering reevaluation. This is known as mental accounting fragmentation. When costs are fragmented across time, they lose emotional weight. The purchase feels finished even though payment continues. The decision ends early. The obligation does not. Section 4. So. Why? Financial knowledge does not cancel the effect. This response is not limited to people who don't understand money. High earners experience it. Professionals experience it. Budget-conscious individuals experience it. Why? Because this is not a mathematical failure. It is an emotional one. Even when people understand the total cost, their emotional response remains tied to the installment. Knowing the math does not eliminate how payment feels. Higher income often reduces visibility of impact, not susceptibility. The mechanism does not disappear. It becomes quieter. Section 5. Decision speed and reduced friction. Split payments also change how long people think before deciding. Reduced payment pain shortens evaluation time. Fewer questions are asked. Future consequences are postponed. The brain prioritizes immediate resolution. This is not recklessness. It is cognitive efficiency. The mind prefers decisions that remove present discomfort quickly. Buy now, pay later does exactly that. It resolves pressure without requiring sacrifice up front. Approval becomes faster. Reconsideration becomes unlikely. Section 6. When the total cost disappears. After approval, something subtle happens. The total cost fades from attention. What remains is a recurring charge that feels ordinary. Installments blend into monthly routines. They lose emotional intensity. They stop feeling like a purchase. At this point, the cost no longer feels optional. It feels structural. This is where relief becomes normalization, and normalization is what allows repetition. Autopsy summary. What this chapter reveals: split payments feel cheaper because they reduce emotional resistance. They anchor attention to smaller numbers. They fragment financial pain. They delay discomfort. The risk is not misunderstanding the math. The risk is that evaluation ends before the full cost is emotionally processed. This chapter is not about blame. It is about understanding why approval feels easy and why reconsideration rarely happens later. This chapter was not about buy now, pay later alone. It was about how the brain experiences cost when relief is offered first and consequences are divided over time. If you want more breakdowns like this, not advice, not motivation, not fear, but clear, structured autopsies of everyday financial decisions, subscribe to Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies. Each episode dissects one decision and follows what happens long after the relief fades. Chapter 3. Expanded, the interest-free misunderstanding. What does the phrase interest-free actually mean? Does it mean the cost disappears, or does it simply mean the cost arrives in a different form? This chapter is not about judgment. It is about understanding payment structures, because many modern payment tools are designed to reduce friction, and reduced friction changes how humans evaluate price. That is a documented behavioral finance principle. Section 1. What interest-free legally means. When a buy now, pay later plan is labeled interest-free, it is usually accurate in one specific sense. No interest is charged if payments are completed on time according to the agreement. This structure is confirmed across consumer finance disclosures, regulatory filings, public BNPL provider terms. The cost of borrowing, in these cases, is not collected through interest percentages. Instead, revenue is generated through merchant transaction fees, late payment penalties, where applicable, increased purchase volume. These models are openly disclosed in provider documentation. Section 2. Why no interest feels like no cost. In behavioral economics, the pain of paying matters as much as the price itself. Research from consumer payment studies consistently shows paying later feels less painful than paying now. Smaller payments feel easier to approve than larger totals. When interest is removed from view, the brain focuses on cash flow, not total cost. This is not deception. It is human cognition responding to structure. Section 3. Cost versus timing, the core confusion. Interest-free does not mean cost-free. It means the timing of the cost changes. Instead of one large payment today, the cost is divided, the timeline extends, the full amount becomes less visible. Studies on payment splitting show purchase approval rates increase, price sensitivity decreases. Total spending often rises over time. This pattern has been documented across credit cards, installment loans, Subscription models, BNPL, follows the same economic logic. Section 4, where costs can still enter interest-free plans usually include conditional terms. These may include late fees, account restrictions, reduced access to future offers. Not all providers charge the same fees. Not all users incur them. However, consumer protection agencies consistently note missed payments convert time savings into financial penalties. This is why disclosure comprehension matters. Section 5. Merchant-side economics. From the merchant perspective, BNPL increases conversion rates. Average order values often rise. Checkout abandonment decreases. These outcomes are documented in retail payment research. Merchants pay a fee for this benefit. Consumers pay through commitment, not interest. This is a trade-off, not a trap. Section 6. Why education matters more than warning. Financial tools are not inherently harmful or helpful. Outcomes depend on frequency of use, payment consistency, income stability, awareness of total obligation. This is why financial literacy frameworks emphasize understanding payment mechanics, not just reading labels. Interest-free explains the price structure, not the behavioral impact. Section 7. The misunderstanding summarized. The misunderstanding is simple. People hear no interest and unconsciously hear less expensive. In reality, the price is the same. The payment experience changes. Behavior responds to that change. This principle is consistent across behavioral finance, consumer psychology, payment economics used intentionally. BNPL can support short-term cash flow management. It can smooth irregular income cycles. It can prevent emergency disruption used repeatedly without tracking. It can increase long-term spending commitments. Both outcomes are documented. Neither is guaranteed. The most expensive part of a purchase is not always the interest rate. Sometimes it is the decision environment. Understanding how payment structure shapes judgment is not about fear. It is about clarity. If you want more clear, evidence-based breakdowns of everyday money decisions, subscribe to Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies. We don't tell you what to buy. We explain how decisions are shaped, so you can decide with full awareness. Chapter 4. Expanded. The hidden spending multiplier. When people talk about the cost of buy now, pay later, they usually look for interest. They look for fees. They look for penalties. They look for numbers printed in small text. But the largest cost rarely appears there. The real cost appears in behavior, specifically in how payment structure quietly changes how much people approve, how often they approve, and how long the approvals continue. This effect is known in consumer finance research as a spending multiplier, not because prices rise, but because decisions change. Section 1. What a spending multiplier really is. A spending multiplier does not mean that a product becomes more expensive. The listed price stays the same. The multiplier refers to what happens after the payment method changes. Decades of behavioral finance and payment research consistently show the same pattern. When the pain of paying is reduced, total spending increases. This has been observed with credit cards compared to cash, deferred payments compared to upfront payments, installment plans compared to single payments. The key variable is not income. It is not intelligence. It is not financial discipline. It is payment friction. When friction goes down, approvals go up. Section 2. Why this happens even without interest. A common assumption is that higher spending only happens when borrowing costs money. That assumption is incorrect. Multiple peer-reviewed studies in behavioral economics show that payment timing alone changes behavior. When payment is delayed or divided, the emotional impact of the purchase weakens. The evaluation process shortens. The sense of sacrifice decreases. This occurs even when the total price is unchanged. The brain does not naturally treat future payments as equal to present payments. This phenomenon is known as present bias. People consistently weigh immediate costs more heavily than future costs. This is a documented and repeatable pattern. Section 3. How the brain processes split payments. When a purchase requires full payment up front, the brain processes the entire cost at once. This activates friction. Friction slows decisions. It creates internal questions. Do I need this right now? Is this worth the full amount today? What else could this money do? These questions are part of normal financial self-control. When payments are split, the brain processes a smaller number. Instead of evaluating the full cost, attention shifts to the first installment. The decision anchor changes. Behavioral research consistently shows that people anchor decisions to immediate out-of-pocket cost, not cumulative obligation. This is not a mistake. It is how human cognition works. Section 4. The moment the multiplier activates. The spending multiplier activates at approval. Once the first yes is given under reduced friction, future approvals become easier. This is called decision momentum. Each successful low-pain transaction confirms the payment method feels manageable, reduces perceived risk, increases confidence in repeating the behavior. This effect has been observed across multiple consumer payment systems. The first purchase does not cause the problem. The pattern does. Section 5. The add-on effect in real transactions. The multiplier becomes stronger during the purchase itself. This is where add-ons matter. When the main purchase is already divided into installments, additional items are evaluated relative to the installment, not the total. For example, an extra item costing $40 may feel expensive when paying up front, but when divided into 4 payments, it becomes $10 per installment. Research in retail payment behavior shows that add-on acceptance rates increase under installment payments. Average order values rise when payment pain is reduced. This does not require impulse buying. It happens during normal, deliberate purchasing. Section 6. Frequency, the quiet multiplier. The multiplier does not act once. It acts repeatedly. Split payments reduce resistance not only to larger purchases, but to more frequent purchases. Each transaction feels manageable on its own, but the brain evaluates each purchase independently. It does not automatically combine them. As a result, multiple active obligations accumulate. Total spending increases without a clear moment of realization. This effect has been documented across income levels. Higher income does not eliminate it. It delays awareness. Section 7. Why total cost becomes hard to see. One reason the spending multiplier stays hidden is visibility. Split payments fragment expenses across time. Instead of one clear transaction, people see multiple small charges, spanning weeks or months, overlapping with other obligations. Behavioral finance research shows that fragmented expenses are harder to mentally aggregate. When aggregation is difficult, monitoring declines. When monitoring declines, adjustments stop. This is not neglect, it is cognitive limitation. Section 8. Good intentions do not stop the multiplier. Many users believe they will use it only when necessary. This belief is common. But research shows intention alone does not override structure. The system encourages reuse because each transaction feels successful. No immediate negative feedback appears. No visible interest reinforces safety. Each smooth experience increases trust in the method. Trust increases usage. Usage increases exposure to the multiplier. This occurs without financial stress and without poor judgment. Section 9. Why middle-income earners are most exposed. Middle-income households experience the multiplier more often than lower or higher extremes. They usually have enough income to qualify, enough expenses to feel pressure, enough stability to continue usage. The result is not sudden financial failure. It is gradual erosion, reduced margin, reduced flexibility, reduced buffer. These changes are slow, which makes them harder to detect. Section 10. What the multiplier is not. The spending multiplier is not fraud. It is not deception. It is not a hidden fee. It is the predictable result of how humans respond to delayed and divided payments. The system functions as designed. The misunderstanding lies in assuming that unchanged prices mean unchanged behavior. They do not. Chapter summary. Buy now, pay later does not increase spending by increasing prices. It increases spending by lowering resistance. It changes what feels affordable, how often approval happens, how clearly total cost is tracked. That is the hidden spending multiplier. Not obvious in a single purchase, not visible on a receipt, but measurable over time. Thank you for watching thus far. If you are getting value from this video, kindly subscribe to our channel. Click the notification bell, like and share. In the next chapter, we will examine what happens after these multiplied decisions overlap. When payments stack, timelines collide, and the real cost finally becomes visible. This is Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies. One decision, repeated, fully examined. Chapter 5. Expanded, a simple time-based illustration. Introduction. Why time matters more than amount. Most financial mistakes do not fail because they are large. They fail because they are allowed to exist over time. This chapter does not introduce new tools, new rules, or new strategies. It does something simpler. It examines how time quietly multiplies everyday financial decisions, even when those decisions appear small, reasonable, and harmless in isolation. Think of this chapter as an autopsy, not of a person, but of a decision. We are not judging it. We are examining how it behaves once time is involved. Section 1. The single decision. Illusion. At the moment a spending decision is made, it usually looks simple. The cost is clear. The benefit feels immediate. The impact seems contained. A small subscription, a convenience purchase, a short-term payment plan. Viewed once, the decision feels manageable. The mistake is assuming that a decision exists only once. In reality, many financial decisions do not stay isolated. They repeat, they overlap, they extend forward in time. This is where the illusion begins. Section 2. Introducing the time frame. To understand this, imagine a basic timeline. Not a complex model, not an investment chart, just time moving forward. At the start, a single expense enters the timeline. It occupies a small space. At first, nothing looks wrong. But time does not stop at the first moment. It keeps moving. And as time moves, decisions either exit the timeline or remain inside it. This distinction matters more than the size of the expense itself. Section 3. When decisions overlap. Now, imagine a second decision entering the timeline before the first one exits. Individually, both decisions still look reasonable. Each one fits within a budget when viewed alone, but together, they begin to overlap. Then imagine a third, not because of irresponsibility, but because life continues. Needs arise. Convenience is chosen. Payments are deferred. Over time, the timeline becomes crowded. This is not overspending in the dramatic sense. It is overlapping commitments. Section 4. The multiplication effect of time. Here is the key insight. Time does not simply extend a decision, it multiplies it. An expense that lasts 6 months does not just cost 6 times more. It occupies 6 months of financial attention, flexibility, and capacity. When multiple decisions coexist in the same time window, they compete for the same income. This is where pressure forms, not suddenly, but gradually. Section 5. Why the pressure feels invisible at first. Early on, the timeline still feels open. Income is steady, payments are small, nothing appears urgent. This is why the problem is often missed. The pressure is not loud. It does not announce itself. It accumulates quietly, occupying future space before that space is consciously evaluated. Section 6. Midpoint check. The autopsy. Pause. This is the moment where most people misread their situation. They look at today's affordability instead of tomorrow's overlap. The autopsy reveals something important. The decision itself was not extreme. The timing was. Financial strain often begins before discomfort is felt. Section 7. When flexibility disappears. As time continues, flexibility shrinks. Options that once existed quietly disappear. Extra savings capacity. Emergency buffers. Choice-based spending. Nothing dramatic happens. No single bill causes collapse. Instead, the timeline becomes rigid. At this point, new decisions no longer fit easily, not because income changed, but because time is already occupied. Section 8. Why this is common, not personal failure. This pattern is not rare. It is normal. Modern financial systems are designed to spread costs across time. That design reduces immediate pain but increases overlap risk. Understanding this removes blame from the individual and places attention where it belongs, on structure and timing. Section 9. The core lesson, compressed. Here is the simplified takeaway. A decision should not be evaluated only by how small it feels today, how affordable it seems now. It must also be evaluated by how long it stays active. What else exists in the same time window? Time is not neutral. It is an amplifier. Section 10. Closing the autopsy. This chapter does not argue against spending. It does not promote restriction. It reveals something quieter. Most financial stress is not caused by one bad decision. It is caused by too many reasonable decisions sharing the same time. Once this is seen, it cannot be unseen. And that awareness alone changes future outcomes. Buy now, pay later. Payments are not limited to low-income or high-income users. They sit most heavily on middle-income households, where income is steady, obligations are fixed, and cash flow has little margin. In this long-form episode of Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies, we examine how BNPL systems interact with household budgeting, consumer payment structures, and monthly cash flow allocation to create quiet financial pressure over time. This chapter breaks down, using verifiable consumer finance research, why middle-income earners qualify easily for BNPL services, how overlapping payment obligations compress future cash flow, why this pressure builds gradually instead of causing sudden collapse, how recurring payment structures, not behavior, drive the strain. This is a chapter-based one-hour financial analysis designed for viewers who want clarity, not advice, fear, or sales tactics. This video is part of an ongoing series that dissects everyday financial decisions and explains what actually happens when they repeat inside real payment systems. Subscribe to Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies for structured, advertiser-safe, long-form breakdowns of consumer debt, payment systems, and financial decision mechanics. One decision, one system, one autopsy. Chapter 6. Expanded. When payments outlive the purchase. Introduction. The strangest part of modern spending. There is a quiet moment that rarely gets discussed. It happens weeks or months after a purchase is made. The item is no longer new. The excitement has faded. The benefit has already been used, consumed, or normalized. But the payment is still there. This chapter examines that moment. Not emotionally, not morally, structurally. Section 1. The separation of use and payment. Traditionally, payment and use happen together. You paid, then you owned. Then the transaction ended. Modern payment systems change this sequence. Now use often comes first, while payment trails behind. This separation matters, because the human brain evaluates value differently when cost and benefit occur at different times. When benefit is immediate and cost is delayed, perceived affordability increases. This is a well-documented principle in behavioral economics. Section 2, the already gone problem. Once a product has been used, it becomes psychologically resolved. It no longer occupies active decision space. But the payment does. This creates an imbalance. You are paying for something that no longer feels present, not because it failed, but because novelty and attention have moved on. This is where frustration quietly forms, not at purchase, but later. Section 3. Why this does not feel like debt. Many people do not mentally classify these payments as debt. There is no interest headline. There is no collection pressure. There is no dramatic warning. Instead, the payment feels small, routine, and expected. But functionally, it behaves the same way. It occupies future income. It reduces flexibility. It competes with new needs. The difference is psychological framing, not financial effect. Section 4. Time extends the cost beyond the value. Here is the structural mismatch. The value of most consumer goods is front-loaded. The usefulness is highest early. The satisfaction curve declines over time. The payment curve often moves in the opposite direction. It remains constant. It does not decline as satisfaction declines. This means cost often outlives value, not symbolically, mathematically. Section 5. Why this feels normal, not alarming. This pattern does not trigger alarm because it is normalized. Payment plans are advertised as convenience. Installments are framed as flexibility. The language avoids risk signaling. As a result, people adapt. They do not ask, "Will I still want this while I'm still paying for it?" They ask, "Can I afford the payment right now?" Those are very different questions. Section 6. The compounding effect. Across multiple purchases. One lingering payment rarely causes strain. The issue appears when multiple purchases follow the same pattern. Each one ends emotionally before it ends financially. Over time, the present becomes crowded with the past. You are not paying for today. You are paying for decisions already completed. This is not mismanagement. It is delayed consequence stacking. Section 7. Why this affects future decisions. When a large portion of income is already allocated to past purchases, future choices become constrained. Emergencies feel heavier. Opportunities feel riskier. Flexibility disappears, not because income dropped, but because yesterday occupies today. This is one of the least visible forms of financial pressure. Section 8. The autopsy. Finding. When payments outlive purchases, the problem is not the item. It is the time mismatch between cost and benefit. The financial system did exactly what it was designed to do: reduce immediate friction. The unintended effect is extended obligation without extended satisfaction. Section 9. The corrective insight. A powerful evaluation question emerges from this chapter. Will I still value this while I'm still paying for it? This question does not reject payment plans. It reintroduces time into the decision. Time is the missing variable in most spending evaluations. Section 10. Conclusion. This chapter does not argue against convenience. It reveals its trade-off. When payment survives longer than usefulness, decisions feel heavier than expected. Not immediately, but eventually. And that delay is precisely why this pattern repeats. Transition to the next autopsy. In the next chapter, the focus shifts again, not to the size of payments, not to interest rates, but to something subtler. How recurring financial obligations quietly redefine what normal spending feels like. Chapter 7. Missed Payments and Consequence Conversion. Introduction. When nothing goes wrong. Most financial damage does not begin when something goes wrong. It begins when nothing goes wrong. Yet, a buy now, pay later. payment is missed, not deliberately, not recklessly, just late, sometimes by days, sometimes by weeks. In that moment, the purchase does not change, the item does not disappear, life continues. But behind the scenes, the system begins to reinterpret the borrower. This is where consequences are converted. Section 1. What missed actually means. A missed payment does not always mean default. In consumer credit systems, it typically means one of three things: a payment not received by the due date, a payment failed due to insufficient funds, a payment skipped unintentionally. These events are common. They occur across income levels. What matters is not intent. It is timing. Payment systems operate on rules, not context. Once a due date passes, the system records an outcome. That outcome becomes data. Section 2. From payment event to risk signal. Modern credit systems are data-driven. They do not ask why a payment was missed. They record that it was missed. From there, the event is processed as a risk signal. This signal may trigger late fees, penalty interest account status changes, internal risk scoring adjustments. This is not speculation. Consumer finance reporting consistently shows that payment history is one of the most heavily weighted factors in credit risk evaluation systems. The system converts a missed installment from a scheduling issue into a probability adjustment. Section 3. Consequence conversion. Explained simply, this is where consequence conversion occurs. A small event becomes a larger outcome because it is multiplied by systems. The original event, one missed installment. The converted consequences, additional fees, higher effective cost, reduced future flexibility. The consumer experiences this later. The system records it immediately. This delay creates confusion. People often feel consequences appear suddenly. In reality, they were recorded quietly. Section 4. A concrete illustration. Consider a simple, common scenario. A 4-installment BNPL purchase. Payment scheduled every 2 weeks. One payment is missed. As a result, a late fee is applied. The next payment remains due. The schedule does not pause. Now 2 payments exist instead of 1. The relief structure collapses into compression. What was designed to reduce pressure now concentrates it. This is not a personal failure, it is a structural outcome. Section 5. Why consequences feel disproportionate. Many users report that consequences feel excessive. This perception has a reason. The original decision was framed as small. The consequence is not. Behavioral finance research shows that when the initial cost is perceived as minor, later penalties feel emotionally amplified. The system did not change. The framing did. This mismatch creates stress, not just cost. Section 6. Cascading effects over time. A single missed payment rarely exists alone. Once one payment is missed, the likelihood of another increases. This is documented in consumer payment behavior studies. Why? Because cash flow becomes tighter. Because schedules overlap. Because pressure compounds. The system responds predictably. Each event increases monitoring. Each signal reduces tolerance. This is how short-term relief converts into long-term cost. Section 7. Why this matters more than the original purchase. The original purchase fades quickly. The consequences persist longer. Fees remain. Records remain. Reduced flexibility remains. This is why missed payments matter more than the item that caused them. The system remembers longer than the consumer does. Section 8. The autopsy insight. This chapter is not about mistakes. It is about translation. A missed payment is translated by systems into a lasting financial signal. The conversion is automatic. The impact is delayed. The awareness is minimal. That is the risk. Chapter 8. Credit Reporting Uncertainty. Introduction. The score that moves quietly. Most people expect credit changes to be obvious. A missed payment, a default, a serious problem. But many credit changes happen without events. No alert, no message, no explanation. A score shifts, an approval disappears, a rate changes, and the reason is unclear. This chapter explains why. Section 1. What credit reporting systems actually record. Credit reporting systems do not interpret intent. They record behavior. Across major consumer credit frameworks, this behavior includes whether payments arrive on time, how often accounts are used, how long accounts remain active, how frequently new accounts appear, how balances change over time. These systems are designed to estimate repayment reliability. They are not designed to explain themselves. Section 2. Where reporting becomes uncertain. Uncertainty appears when financial activity does not follow long-established credit patterns. Some installment-based products report only under certain conditions, report differently across regions, change reporting practices over time, do not report consistently at all. Because of this, consumers often cannot tell if activity is being reported, how it is categorized, when it will appear. This uncertainty is structural, not hidden. Section 3. A concrete comparison. Consider two people. Same income, same spending, same payment behavior. Person A uses a traditional credit product. Person B uses a newer installment-based product. Both pay on time, neither misses payments. Over time, Person A's activity forms a clear pattern. Person B's activity may appear irregular or incomplete, depending on reporting structure. The system does not label Person B as irresponsible. It labels the data as less predictable. Section 4. Why predictability matters in credit systems. Credit systems operate on probability. They estimate how likely future payments are based on past patterns. Predictable patterns narrow estimates. Irregular patterns widen them. Wider estimates lead to more cautious decisions. This can influence approval thresholds, offered credit limits, interest rate ranges, even when no payment has ever been late. Section 5. Why this feels confusing to users. From the user's view, payments were on time, accounts were current, nothing went wrong. From the system's view, history may be short, patterns may be fragmented, reporting may be inconsistent. Both views are accurate. They simply do not align. Section 6. System memory versus human memory. Payment systems remember patterns. Humans remember events. People recall the purchase, the relief, the payment completion. Systems record frequency, duration, consistency, change over time. This mismatch creates the feeling of randomness. The system is not random. It is cumulative. Section 7. Why uncertainty lasts longer than the purchase. A purchase ends. A reporting pattern remains. Credit systems emphasize trends over moments. Once uncertainty is introduced, it can persist until enough consistent data replaces it. This process takes time. It does not announce when it begins or when it ends. Section 8. What this chapter is not claiming. This chapter is not stating that all installment products harm credit. All reporting outcomes or negative results are identical for everyone. Outcomes vary by provider, region, and reporting framework. In some cases, information is insufficient to generalize universally. The core issue here is not damage. It is unpredictability. Section 9. The autopsy insight. Credit damage is visible. Credit uncertainty is silent. It changes outcomes without explaining why. When cause and effect are separated, people lose the ability to learn from behavior. That is the risk of uncertainty. Transition line. In the next chapter, we examine how uncertainty compounds when these behaviors repeat over time. Because repetition turns ambiguity into pattern. If this breakdown helped you see what really happens behind everyday financial choices, subscribe to Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies to uncover the hidden patterns in money decisions. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new autopsy. Share this video with someone dealing with recurring payments or hidden costs. It could change how they see their finances. Comment below with the decision you want us to analyze next. Your input shapes the next episode. One decision, one system, one autopsy, and your money awareness grows. End of Chapter 8. Buy now, pay later. Payments are not limited to low-income or high-income users. They sit most heavily on middle-income households, where income is steady, obligations are fixed, and cash flow has little margin. In this long-form episode of Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies, we examine how BNPL systems interact with household budgeting, consumer payment structures, and monthly cash flow allocation to create quiet financial pressure over time. This chapter breaks down, using verifiable consumer finance research, why middle-income earners qualify easily for BNPL services, how overlapping payment obligations compress future cash flow, why this pressure builds gradually instead of causing sudden collapse, how recurring payment structures, not behavior, drive the strain. This is a chapter-based one-hour financial analysis designed for viewers who want clarity, not advice, fear, or sales tactics. This video is part of an ongoing series that dissects everyday financial decisions and explains what actually happens when they repeat inside real payment systems. Subscribe to Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies for structured, advertiser-safe, long-form breakdowns of consumer debt, payment systems, and financial decision mechanics. One decision, one system, one autopsy. Chapter 9. Who feels the pressure most? Introduction. Who feels the pressure most when using buy now, pay later? This is not a question about intelligence. It is not a question about discipline. It is not a question about moral failure. It is a question about financial structure. Buy now, pay later users exist across all income levels. Low-income earners, middle-income earners, high-income earners. But pressure does not distribute evenly. Financial behavior research consistently shows that the experience of payment stress depends less on income size and more on how income is allocated over time. This chapter examines where that pressure concentrates and why. Section 1. Income levels and BNPL. Participation. Buy now, pay later. Usage is observed across the income spectrum. Lower-income households often interact with BNPL less frequently due to eligibility limits, access constraints, early rejection during approval checks. Higher-income households often use BNPL as a cash flow convenience, a budgeting preference, a short-term liquidity tool. Middle-income earners fall between these groups. They are frequent users not because of recklessness, but because they qualify easily, they manage multiple obligations, they actively smooth expenses across time. This makes them structurally visible to BNPL systems. Section 2. Why middle-income earners qualify. Easily, middle-income earners typically have stable employment or business income, consistent payment history, active bank accounts or cards, predictable monthly cash inflows. These characteristics align closely with BNPL approval models. Approval is often based on identity verification, payment method validation, basic risk indicators. This creates a situation where access is wide even when flexibility is narrow. Qualification answers only one question. Can this person make the payments? It does not answer. How many future payments are already committed? Section 3. The fully allocated income problem. Most middle-income earners operate with fully allocated income. Income arrives. It is immediately assigned. Rent or mortgage, transportation, utilities, food, insurance, family responsibilities. There is often little unused capacity left. When BNPL is introduced, it does not replace expenses. It rearranges them across time. Installments do not eliminate cost. They delay it. This delay creates overlap. Section 4. Cash flow compression. Explained, financial educators describe this pattern as cash flow compression. Compression is not default. Compression is not crisis. Compression is constraint. Each installment occupies future income, reduces flexibility, narrows discretionary space. One plan is manageable. Several plans overlap quietly. The pressure builds not through size, but through density. This phenomenon is widely documented in household budgeting and payment behavior studies. Section 5. Why the pressure stays invisible. Compression rarely feels dangerous at first. Payments are small. Due dates are spaced out. Approval felt easy. From the outside, bills are paid. Income is steady. No immediate crisis exists. From the inside, options shrink. Adjustments become harder. Errors become more costly. The system does not signal danger early. It signals convenience. Section Comparison with other income groups. Lower income earners often face early rejection, reduced access, fewer overlapping plans. Higher income earners often have larger buffers, discretionary reserves, capacity to absorb overlap. Middle income earners face high access, high obligation density, limited unused margin. This is why pressure concentrates here, not because of behavior, because of structure. Chapter Synthesis, Buy Now, Pay Later, does not target weakness. It aligns with predictable financial structures. For middle-income earners, those structures often include stable income, fully allocated cash flow, multiple future commitments. Under these conditions, installment stacking produces compression, not collapse. Understanding this dynamic is not about fear. It is about clarity, and clarity is the foundation of better financial decisions. End of Chapter 9. Buy now, pay later is often presented as a flexible payment option. But what happens after the moment of relief? This episode completes a structured financial autopsy of buy now, pay later, examining how short-term payment relief can convert into long-term financial pressure when obligations overlap over time. Using only documented consumer behavior research, established payment system mechanics, and publicly acknowledged industry design structures, this video explains how BNPL works beneath the surface, particularly for middle-income earners aged 25 to 55 managing limited financial margin. This content is created strictly for financial education and awareness. It does not provide financial advice and does not promote or discourage any product or service. This episode forms part of the Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies series, where each video examines one common financial decision in isolation, so its long-term structure becomes visible. If you value clarity over hype and systems over shortcuts, this video belongs in your watch history. Buy now, pay later. Chapter 10. The Autopsy Summary Channel, Everyday Financial Decision. Autopsies. What are we actually examining? What if the problem with buy now, pay later was never the product itself? What if the real issue is not debt, not technology, and not spending, but timing? This chapter is not about blame. It is about financial decision structure. Because buy now, pay later is not a loan in the traditional sense. It is a payment design that changes how people evaluate cost, risk, and future cash flow. And once you understand that, the outcomes become predictable. Section 1. The Core Mechanism. Recap. Across consumer finance research, one principle appears consistently. When the immediate pain of payment is reduced, purchase approval rates increase. Buy now, pay later does exactly this by delaying the first payment, splitting the total cost into smaller installments, removing visible interest in many short-term plans. This does not change the price. It changes how the price is perceived. The full cost becomes background information. The installment becomes the decision. This is not irresponsibility. It is behavioral economics. Section 2. Why interest-free is not cost-free. Many BNPL plans advertise zero interest. That statement can be factually correct. However, research and regulatory disclosures show that late fees are common. Missed payments can trigger penalties. Some providers report to credit bureaus. Returned payments may incur bank fees. Even without interest, the financial risk still exists. The cost is not always monetary. Sometimes it is cash flow strain. Sometimes it is credit health impact. Sometimes it is reduced financial flexibility. Section 3. The spending multiplier. Effect. Multiple studies on consumer behavior show that when payments are split, people are more likely to add extra items. Purchase size tends to increase. Budget limits feel more flexible than they actually are. This is known as a spending multiplier effect. Not because people forget the total, but because the total feels distant. This effect applies to BNPL services, credit cards, subscription models. It is a structural outcome, not a personal failure. Section 4. Cash flow versus income. The confusion point. Income answers one question: how much do I earn? Cash flow answers another: when does my money actually move? BNPL places obligations into future cash flow, not present income. For middle-income earners, this matters because income is usually stable. Expenses are recurring. Financial margin is limited. Overlap is where pressure forms, not collapse, compression. Section 5. Missed payments. When structure meets reality, missed BNPL payments often occur not from overspending, but from timing conflicts. Rent, utilities, subscriptions, transport, food. BNPL installments compete silently with these obligations. When payments overlap, late fees may apply. Accounts may be suspended. Credit reporting may occur depending on provider and region. These outcomes are documented in consumer protection reports globally. Section 6. Credit reporting, uncertainty. Unlike traditional credit cards, BNPL credit reporting is inconsistent. Some providers report missed payments, report account status. Do not report positive repayment history. This creates uncertainty. Consumers may assume no interest means no credit impact. That assumption is not always correct. Credit health depends on reporting policy, not marketing language. Section 7. Who feels the pressure most? BNPL users exist across income levels, but middle-income earners face a unique vulnerability. Enough income to qualify. Limited financial buffer. Multiple recurring obligations. This does not lead to financial collapse for most users. It leads to reduced flexibility, increased stress, narrower decision windows, pressure, not poverty. Section 8. What the autopsy actually shows. When outcomes go wrong, the cause is rarely a single purchase. It is accumulation, multiple small installments, overlapping payment dates, delayed visibility of total obligations. BNPL does not create spending habits. It amplifies existing ones. The structure rewards immediacy and defers consequence. Section 9. The educational takeaway. This is not a warning to never use buy now, pay later. It is a framework for evaluation. Before using any split payment tool, ask, what future income is this using? What other payments land in that window? What happens if one payment is missed? These are financial planning questions, not moral ones. Section 10. Why this matters beyond BNPL. The same mechanics apply to credit cards, subscriptions, financing offers, deferred billing. Understanding BNPL teaches a broader lesson. Money decisions are about timing, not just totals. When timing is misunderstood, cost becomes invisible. Conclusion. This channel exists to do one thing: Dissect everyday financial decisions without shame, hype, or fear. If this breakdown helped you see a familiar decision more clearly, subscribe to Everyday Financial Decision Autopsies. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next analysis. Share this episode with someone, and leave a comment on your take in these series. Engagement tells the platform this kind of content deserves to exist.